Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the RUCKCast. My name's Jim Palmer. And you can probably tell if you're watching this on YouTube, this episode is going to be all about WLPC Prague 2025. Registration actually opens on Friday, August 15th. So if you're watching it as the day this is released or a couple days after you're listening to it, then you still have time to prepare to register if you want to go to WLPC Prague. If you are listening or watching this sometime the week after, you may or may not have a chance. So you'll have to go, if you want to go, you have to go put yourself on the wait list. I think it's Matthew at WLANpros.com. Go ahead and, so if you're, the week of the 18th, you're probably still good on the 18th, 19th, and 20th, but man, you get to the 22nd, you might have to send Matthew an email and get on the wait list. But since we're doing this, I'm doing this before we do, before registration opens, I want to spend a little bit of time and talk about it. What WLPC is, what it offers, why you should go, who from Ruckus is going to be there, and some other information about it. So if you a long-time listener of the program, you know that about twice a year, we do an episode where we talk about, at least twice a year, where we talk about WLPC. We talk about the events that are coming up. There's actually 4 of them. There's one in February in Phoenix, and that's sort of like for North America, but there's people from all over the world to come to that one. And then in the late summer, there's usually one somewhere in Spain. I think the last couple of years has been in Valencia, Spain. This one is in September. I'm pretty sure there's still some seats open. So if you go to the website, thewlpc.com, you can pick the Valencia 2025 conference and go ahead and register. That is a Spanish-speaking conference. It's organized by Fernay Munoz, who's been a guest on here and is just a good friend of, well, everybody. Fernay is everybody's friend. And so if you're Spanish speaking, or if you want to go to a Spanish speaking one, and you don't have to speak Spanish, but all the presentations are done in Spanish. If you want to present, or if you want to get it, you want to help, you can speak in English, but it's mainly geared towards the Spanish speaking. And then in October is the WLPC Europe conference. That has been in Prague for the last probably 4 years, maybe. This year it's at a new hotel because we kind of outgrew the old hotel. So this one's at a new hotel. You can actually see pictures of it if you go on the website, and you can kind of see the hotel looks really nice. So I'm actually really excited about this one. And then in November timeframe, there's a second Spanish-speaking WLPC in Mexico City. At least there has been in the past. I haven't seen anything, but we'll just go ahead and promote it as if Fernay is going to do the Mexico City one. Again, Spanish speaking for people in the Western Hemisphere, North America, South America, who are Spanish speaking, and Fernay's done a really good job on promoting the Spanish speaking community. So if that is anywhere in your wheelhouse, go ahead and check that out. I can't recommend the community that Fernay is growing. I cannot recommend that enough. It is just a fantastic job he's doing. And he really deserves all the support we can give him. So those are the 4 conferences. Why you should go to WLPC. This is an odd one, and it's hard to convince your bosses that you should go to WLPC because all the presentations are recorded. Now, every once in a while you'll have a presentation that's recorded and then they say, you know what, we don't want to publish that. So can you just kind of hold back on that? And they will. But for the most part, I would say like 99% of the presentations that are done are published on YouTube. And you can go look, and there are just hours and hours, and probably at this point there's days worth of videos that you can go watch because they're all recorded and posted on YouTube. On the Wireless LAN Professionals YouTube channel. You can go look it up by year. You can go look it up by location. You can look it up by presenter. And so all of the presentations are recorded and they're posted online for everybody to see. So that's not why you go. You go to WLPC because that's where everybody's at. If you have a Wi-Fi question, if you have any type of question, and you can't get it answered anywhere else, you can get it answered at WLPC. There are about, I'd say, the smartest people in Wi-Fi attend this conference, and they let me show up too. Not sure why, but anyway, so you go because of the people, you go because of the other events, you go because of all the time in between the presentations, in between classes, in the morning at breakfast, in nighttime, afterwards over drinks. Vendors will do vendor sessions, and so if you have a question about particular vendors' hardware or their service offerings or anything like that, they'll be there. And even if they don't do it, you'll be able to find somebody from that vendor there. So that's why you go to WLPC, you get to basically rub elbows and hang out with like all these people that you see and hear about, and all the conferences and all the different big things. They're all there because we all go there together to kind of hang out. I tell a story where me and another guy from one of our competitors were sitting eating breakfast together at a table with a bunch of guys from Norway or Sweden. I forget, one of those two countries. And they asked us a question, and we just went off. And these poor guys, I just sat there, afterwards, if I realized like what had happened. And I was like, they walked into something that they literally had no idea what they were getting into. And they just asked a very innocuous question. And we just kind of, it was like, and here's these two names, fairly big names and well known throughout the industry and the community. And we just went off. And it was just because that was our safe space to vent and talk about it. So then these guys are just kind of sitting there going, oh man, what did I get myself into? And that happened at about 7:00 over breakfast. So yeah, that's why you go to WLPC. So what can you expect to hear at WLPC? Well, this year, and in Prague, Ruckus is going to have 5 presenters there. I'm actually kind of happy about that. And normally, I kind of look at some of the presentations and I kind of go, meh, but I'll tell you. So we're going to cover these real quick. I'm actually pretty excited about all of them except mine. And mine I'm kind of excited about, mainly because I just have to build it first. But the first one is from Jean Mock. Jean Mock is a principal systems engineer out of EMEA. He's in France. Jean Mock is a good friend of mine. Fantastic, smart, super smart guy, crazy smart guy. So that's why you go, is you get to hang out and you get to meet Jean Mock and you get to pester him with every question that I can't answer. Jean Mock's talking about MLO in the wild. This was actually kind of cool because we have some access to some stuff. I'll just say it right now. And the title of his presentation is MLO in the Wild, How iPhone 16 Actually Uses Multi-Link Operation. And I will tell you that we had to work really hard to get this one onto the schedule. So not from, getting it onto the schedule, but just being allowed to get it onto the schedule. So that's what I'm pretty excited about. That's a 30-minute presentation. So I'm really looking forward. That'll be on the morning of one of the days, 3 days. And I'm looking forward to listening to Jean Mock. If I can understand him, I might have to have a second cup of coffee. So that one I'm kind of interested in. The other 30-minute one that we have is actually from me, and it's called Security Face-Off, MSRNO in Modern Networks. Now, this one is actually not my idea. This is actually a guy from 2 down the list, and as soon as he started talking about it on a call we were having, I was like, oh man, this is what I want to talk about. And MRSNO, because that's what we needed, was more initialisms in Wi-Fi, and this stuff stands for multi-RSN override. Now we got to break down RSN. RSN is a robust, secure network. That is how networks indicate to your devices whether or not it's secure, is by being RSN. And there's RSN elements within the association request, and association, it'd be the response, where it says, hey, this is the type of network I am. It tells you whether it's WPA2, WPA, if you're still running WPA, enterprise, personal, WPA3, like all that kind of stuff is all defined within that. And the problem that we're running into is, well, we have multiple different versions of robust, secure networks. And so it's like, how do you deal with having all of these myriad of clients with very limited AP space and radio space in order to handle all these different clients. And so when he started talking about this, I was like, oh man, I need to get in on this one. I was like, I really want to present on this one because this sounds so interesting. Of course, now I have to do is go write a presentation for it. The next one on our list is from Jorge Ruiz de Iglesias de Leon. I hope I said your name right, Jorge. If not, you can yell at me on Teams. That's fine. He is a systems engineer out of EMEA. Based on what I read what I saw, it looks like he's out of Spain. So maybe I need to talk to him about going to Valencia. But anyway, the one he's doing is called QoS mirroring, making the voice and video experience suck less. Now, I actually helped with this when we were doing some testing and some demo stuff on this. QoS mirroring is actually kind of cool. And so I'm really, really happy that we get to talk about that one. The other one that I'm really interested in talking or hearing is one called House of Cards, Forward Compatibility Explained. And this is from Peter Corey. Peter Corey is the acting director of our WSP, our Wireless Services Performance team. They're the ones that kind of take all these sort of features, figure out how we're going to make them work, how well they work, and then demonstrate that and be able to give us the ability to show that off. So if you've ever seen like really crazy graphs and stuff like that, that comes from Peter's team. Peter's awesome. Just like the other Peter we know. But Peter Corey is really cool. So I'm really, really hoping that we can get him to Prague to meet some more people, because more people need to talk to Peter. More people need to talk about what he's doing and what he's working on. He has some inside hooks into a lot of the big players within the technology wireless space. And so if you're there and you have a chance, go talk to Peter. And if you don't know who he is, come find me, and then I'll take you to Peter. The last one is called How I Got Replaced by AI. This is actually from a newer Ruckus person. His name's Alec Murray. He's an MDU solutions architect. And he's going to be talking about how large language models, so not just the AI part, but actually large language models, have revolutionized network analytics. And this one I'm kind of interested in because I've noticed this as well. It's, we talk about AI a lot and it's like the buzzword, but I think one of the things that we're sort of missing out on is how do we utilize specific types of AI? Because AI is not all the same. I'm going to create a person writing with a pen that only has 3 fingers and no thumb, or the thumb's in the wrong place. There's that AI, but then there's also the AI that sort of helps us do our jobs by being able to break down very large, complex data sets and pull out information in a very unique and interesting way to help us understand what's going on with our networks. So unfortunately, Peter and Alec only have 10 minutes, so I might have to pull them off to the side and buy them an adult beverage and kind of pick their brains a little bit more on that stuff. So those are the 5 presentations. So if you're so inclined and want to join us in Prague, that's what you can expect to hear from the Ruckus contingency that's going to be there. So if you like I said, if you're going to be there or you're unsure, I'll put a link in the show notes for the conference, and you can go look. Like I said, registration opens up on Friday, August 15th. I want to say it's 8 a.m. Pacific time, and then just figure it out from there. That's too much math for me. The other thing I want to talk about is one other thing or 2 other things that can happen or do happen and can happen at WLPC, and reasons why you should go. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the conference is 3 days, but prior to that are boot camps. WLPC boot camps are kind of unique in that you can't just go to the boot camp. If you go to the boot camp, you have to go to the conference. They don't split it up. So it's like you're going to go to the boot camp and you spend an additional 3 days with some really smart people from the community learning about specific, whatever you want to sign up for and take. There's an extra cost involved with that, but you get 3 days with some of the smartest people that you would ever want to meet in Wi-Fi. So that's an option. And I want to say there's 8 or 9 different boot camps you can pick from. And it just turns out that one of the boot camps is actually something that I'm putting together and working on. And so I'm kind of, I'm not going to lie, I'm really nervous about this one because it's a 3-day class. It's not just a 45-minute presentation or an hour long presentation or even the deep dive, which I'll talk about here in a second. It's a 3-day boot camp, 10 hours a day of me trying to stay on track, but more importantly, come up with something that you actually want to sit and listen to me for 30 hours over 3 days before you then sit and listen to me for another 30 hours over another 3 days. I'm doing my boot camp is about active learning. And I'll preface this by saying I'm also doing a 6-hour version of this in the deep dives. And I'll talk about the deep dives here in a second. But basically, active learning is something that Tom Carpenter from CWNP was talking about at the last WLPC. And then he did a webinar with CWNP and Homina. They talked about active learning. They were talking about how you can use Homina you can get a free account of Homina and you can put a couple APs and you can kind of play around with it and you can say, hey, how does this actually work? How does the RF work? How do the antennas? What if I change this? What if I change that? What if I change my wall types? You can actually kind of play around with that and you can learn and you can experience even without having a full-blown license. You can use it to help learn, like, how does this stuff actually work? And they inspired me really. And this is something I've been working on. I've been thinking about for a few years at this point. And so when Tom started talking about active learning, I was like, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to focus on. And my active learning class, both the 3-day boot camp and then the deep dive, is all about teaching everybody how to learn about Wi-Fi. Because we always tell people, like, hey, you want to learn about Wi-Fi? You want to really learn it? You need to lab. You need to do over-the-air packet captures. You need to do all these different things and then examine what you see. And then that's how you learn. Except there's only one problem with that. We tell them what to do. Hey, you need to go lab. You need to go do packet captures. And you go, well, how do I do packet captures? And you go, oh, well, get a WLAN Pi. Okay, cool. Now what do I do? Well, then just capture. Great. How do you capture? And it drives me batty because we always tell people this is what you should do, but we never actually talk about how. How do you do that? How do you set this stuff up? How do you go into a lab, on a Wednesday night after the family's gone to bed and you're like, I'm going to go study. I'm going to go work on something. I want to go learn stuff. We never actually stop and tell you how to do that. How do you lab it? We'll just go lab it up. Well, how? And so that's something that's bothered me because I've never been able to and I've never really been a big giant fan, sorry, Ruckus, of all of the different suite of software and tools that we have because it's just not who I am. And so what I've done is I've come up with a way that we can spend either 3 days or 6 hours and we can talk about how do you set up all this stuff so you can troubleshoot and you can examine, you can see how does WPA2 differ from WPA3? You can get APs. You go to WLPC. Last year, some guy walked away with 4 different enterprise grade APs from 4 different vendors. You need an AP? Go to WLPC. You'll get one. So getting the APs isn't the hard part. And then configuring it. That's not hard either. We do that all the time. But how do we do all the other things that support our learning, that support how we do this? Because we just don't have anything that is good for, being able to break stuff and then see how it's broken and rebuild it and do all this stuff and have all this functional stuff to help you learn. And so that's what I've built is this 3-day boot camp. And you can sign up for those as a boot camp and conference package. You can pick my boot camp and then if we get enough people, then I'll go teach it. We'll spend 3 days just really hammering on how do you build everything and how do you support your learning so that when you actually do get to the point of having, some APs up here, hanging off your shelf, yeah, that's great and fine and dandy and all, but we also need stuff down here. Point to it here behind me if you're not watching on the YouTubes. It's like how do I make this stuff back here work to support the stuff I have hanging from my shelf? And so that's what the class is about. So 3-day boot camp, you can sign up for that. The deep dives are kind of an interesting concept. Deep dives happen with the normal conference registration. You register to go to the conference, you get 3 days. You also get breakfast included, hotels included. It's really kind of nice because then your T&E expenses are kind of low, but it's all sort of wrapped up into the training and conference, and so it looks a lot nicer to the CFO people. But when you register for that, you get to take a 6-hour class, and it's broken up into 2 parts. There's 3 hours on day 1, 3 hours on day 2 in the afternoon. So after if you show up on day 1, you listen to all the amazing presentations, you go to lunch, you come back, you watch some more amazing presentations, and then at the break, everybody splits up and you go to the deep dive that you selected during registration. You say, this is the one I'm going to talk to. This is the one I want to go listen to. And you get to pick one. It's only one, and which is kind of a sad because we all I used to teach a different class, and it's all the instructors would be like, man, I really don't want to take my class. I want to take your class. Like we'd be sitting in the office, like trying to get our stuff ready and working on all the stuff. And it'd be like, man, please keep teaching that class, because I want to come take your class. But we can't because we're teaching. And so, yeah, we have the 6 hours. So you pick your one class. We spend a lot of time. We prepare. We get everything ready. And then we just really have a 6-hour deep dive into that one topic. And so if you can't make it to the boot camp, if you can't, if that's not in the budget, if it's not in the time, then I'm teaching an abridged version that I'm going to do in 6 hours. That one's going to rely on a lot of scripting and a lot of some other little tricks that I picked up along the way in order to accelerate your ability to go back home, go to your work, go to wherever it is you're going, and teach people and be able to experiment and be able to learn without messing up the production networks, without doing all that stuff. What I'm focusing on is how do we build test networks that we can break, that we can do all these other things that are super functional. And, if you burn the things up, you're not out like a bunch, tens of thousands of dollars. This is a low cost, very portable type of setups I'm working on. And it's just like, hey, if you use them for a year and you burn them up, then you got your money's worth, really. So I will ask you, please sign up for my my deep dive if you're going, because I'd really appreciate it. And I think that's all I needed to cover for Prague. Got Jean-Marc doing MLO. I'm doing security MRSNO. I'm going to have to work on saying that one. Jorge Ruiz is doing the QoS mirroring. Peter Corey is doing forward compatibility, which is really cool. And then Alec Murray's talking about LLMs and how they relate into the AI stuff. And then I have my boot camp and my deep dive all on learning and how do we prepare, how do we set up, how do we promote learning, how do you build these environments to where instead of just saying, hey, go do something, we say, let me show you how I want you to do this. Let me show you how you can do this. So again, the website is thewlpc.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. And hopefully, if you've never been, I've encouraged you to at least look into it. And if you've been before, you know that, you don't have to, it's really, you go one time and you're kind of hooked. I tell people all the time, like, WLPC is like, you have to describe it some way. And the way I've learned to describe it is the most dysfunctional family reunion that you would ever want to go to. Except when it's all done, it's the one you can't wait to go back to, because you're like, that was just insane. You're like, that was crazy, but these are my people. These are who I hang out with. This is who I enjoy being with. So, yeah, I encourage you to check it out. And if you could make it there, look me up. If you want me to introduce you to the rest of the Ruckus team, we're going to be there doing all kinds of things, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you. So until next time, thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode of the RUCKCast. Hey there. Thanks for listening. If you like the show and haven't done so, please like and subscribe. If you want to contact the show directly, you can email us at ruckcast@comscope.com. I do read those emails. To learn more about any Ruckus products or services that we've talked about on this or any other prior podcast, please check out our About section of the show for the show notes. And as always, thank you for listening.